It was 5 minutes into my morning coffee when I saw it. My dog's face, adorable, innocent, and utterly clueless, staring back at me from a bright red, wanted poster plastered on the community board. The bold letters screamed, "Violation, non-compliant dog. Immediate removal required." Beneath the text was a picture of Max, my 75-pound golden retriever, looking as guilty as a puppy who'd just knocked over a vase. I blinked, certain this had to be some kind of joke. But no, this was real. And I knew exactly who was behind it. Linda, the HOA president, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, with a ruler-straight bob haircut that could slice through steel and a personality to match. She was infamous for her iron-fisted control over the community, patrolling the streets like a hawk, searching for any excuse to issue fines. Mailbox an inch too tall? Fine. Grass not green enough? Fine. Car parked facing the wrong direction? Oh, you better believe that was a double fine. And now, apparently, she had set her sights on banning dogs. I was still processing the absurdity of it all when I heard the sharp click of heels on the pavement. Like a predator sensing weakness, Linda had arrived. Clipboard in hand, lips pursed so tightly they looked like she'd been sucking on a lemon all morning. She approached me with a fake smile plastered across her face. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "Have you seen the notice?" "Oh, I've seen it," I replied, nodding toward the poster. Nice touch with the immediate removal part. Very dystopian. "This is no joke," she snapped, jabbing a manicured finger in Max's direction. He was currently rolling around in the grass, blissfully unaware of his newfound status as a criminal. "Your dog exceeds the HOA weight limit. 30 pounds is the maximum. We can't have dangerous animals roaming the community." I stared at her, then at Max. Max, who once got scared by a butterfly. Max, whose greatest crime was stealing socks from the laundry basket. "Dangerous," I repeated. "You think he's dangerous?" Linda crossed her arms, her expression unyielding. "Rules are rules." I raised an eyebrow. "So what about Mr. Thompson's Great Dane? Or the Martinez family's German Shepherd? They're both over 30 pounds. A smug smile crept across her face. "They were grandfathered in." "Grandfathered in?" I echoed. "So Max is just out of luck because he wasn't born at the right time?" She didn't even blink. "You have 30 days to remove him. Failure to comply will result in escalating fines." With that, she turned on her heel and strutted away, leaving me standing there, stunned. This wasn't my first run-in with HOA nonsense, but this was war. The plan begins. I went inside, poured myself another cup of coffee, and immediately called my old friend Greg. Greg was a former HOA board member who had managed to escape Linda's clutches a few years ago. A gruff, no-nonsense kind of guy, he had a deep-seated hatred for the HOA and Linda in particular. "She's at it again," Greg groaned when I explained the situation. "That woman is a menace." "Tell me something I don't know." "She's making up rules now," I said. "That 30-pound dog limit, it's not in any official HOA document, is it?" Greg snorted. "Of course not. She just throws that around when she wants to get rid of something. She's targeting you because she knows you won't bow down. She's trying to put you in your place." I ran a hand through my hair, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Any chance I can fight this?" Greg hesitated. "You can try, but she controls the board. They'll back whatever she says. If you really want to take her down, you need leverage." That word stuck in my head long after I hung up the phone. Leverage. If Linda was making up rules, what else was she doing behind the scenes? The first place I decided to check was the HOA's financial records. Linda loved to claim that every dollar of HOA fees went toward community improvements, but in all the years I'd lived here, I hadn't seen a single upgrade. The only thing that ever seemed to get fancier was the HOA Clubhouse, a place I'd never once seen open to the public. Under the guise of curiosity, I attended an HOA meeting that evening. The room was packed with the usual suspects, Linda at the head of the table, her loyal minions nodding at every word she said. "As you all know," Linda announced, "we must keep our neighborhood in pristine condition. That's why we'll be enforcing stricter pet regulations moving forward. Large dogs can be unpredictable, and we need to ensure the safety of all residents." I raised my hand. "What about Mr. Thompson's Great Dane?" Linda barely glanced at me. "Grandfathered in." "And the Martinez family's German Shepherd?" She smiled thinly. Also grandfathered in. And who exactly decides what gets grandfathered in? I asked. Her eyes darkened. The board does. I looked around the room. The board consisted of Linda, her best friend, a guy who looked terrified to speak, and a woman who seemed more interested in her phone than the discussion. In other words, Linda was the board. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to look uninterested. Where exactly are our HOA fees going these days? I don't remember voting on any major projects. Linda stiffened. Every expense is accounted for. We recently invested in upgrading the clubhouse. That piqued my interest. Upgrading it how? She waved a dismissive hand. New furniture, minor renovations. Nothing extravagant. But the way she said it, something was off. The clubhouse revelation. Later that night, I met Greg at his house. I told him about the meeting, the vague clubhouse expenses, and Linda's tight grip on power. Greg's eyebrows shot up. Wait, she said renovations? He asked. Yeah. What? He let out a dry laugh. The clubhouse was already upgraded last year. Brand new chairs, fresh paint, a sound system. If she's dumping more money into it, it's not for minor renovations. A theory began forming in my mind. If Linda was lying about the clubhouse, what exactly was she hiding? Greg and I decided to investigate. That weekend, under the cover of night, we snuck into the clubhouse through the back door. What we found inside made my jaw drop. Luxury furniture, a private bar, a hot tub, a karaoke machine. This wasn't a community clubhouse. This was Linda's personal hideaway. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. You think she's using HOA money for this? I asked. Greg folded his arms. What do you think? I grinned. Well, I think we just found our leverage. The final showdown. The next morning, I sipped my coffee and scrolled through the photos I had taken. Each image felt like a jackpot. Plush leather sofas that probably cost more than my mortgage. A sleek, fully stocked bar. A hot tub sitting in the corner like a silent witness to Linda's corruption. And my personal favorite, the karaoke machine. The thought of Linda belting out show tunes while sipping HOA-funded margaritas nearly made me choke on my coffee. Greg showed up an hour later, holding a thick manila folder. He dumped it onto my kitchen table and let out a sigh. You're going to love this. I flipped it open and skimmed through the contents. It was a gold mine. HOA financial records, expense reports, and budget approvals, all riddled with inconsistencies. Payments labeled as community improvement had actually been funneled toward what looked like personal expenses. There were receipts for decorations, but when I cross-checked the amounts, it was clear she wasn't buying cute lawn signs. No, these were high-end interior design pieces, some of them coming from boutique furniture stores. One invoice listed a maintenance fee of $5,000. $5,000? I muttered. What exactly needed that level of maintenance? She's been hiding it in plain sight, Greg said, shaking his head. Since she controls the board, she just stamps everything as approved and no one questions it. I exhaled slowly. So let's say we expose all this. What happens? Greg rubbed his chin. Best case? She gets thrown off the board and possibly sued for mismanaging funds. Worst case? She finds a way to weasel out of it, blames someone else, and continues her reign of terror. I wasn't about to let the worst case happen, but I knew Linda wouldn't go down without a fight. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with an email notification from the HOA. My stomach twisted as I read the subject line. Final notice, violation escalation. I opened the email and felt my blood pressure spike. A new fine had been added to my account, $700 for ongoing violations, including a fabricated noise complaint about Max barking at night. My dog didn't even bark in his sleep. He snored like an old man, but that was hardly a crime. Oh, she's doubling down, I muttered, handing my phone to Greg. He skimmed the email and let out a low whistle. She's trying to break you. Force you to either pay up or move out. That wasn't going to happen. I had too much fun living rent-free in her head. The end of an era. At the next HOA meeting, the turnout was massive. Dozens of homeowners packed the community center, whispering amongst themselves. Linda sat at the head of the table, trying to maintain her usual composure, but there was a stiffness to her posture. She knew the storm was coming. I stood up. I have some questions about the HOA budget. Linda let out a forced laugh. Budget questions should be submitted in writing. I did, I interrupted. Didn't get a response, so I thought I'd ask here. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. I pulled out the stack of receipts and waved them. Care to explain why thousands of dollars in HOA funds were spent on clubhouse renovations that only seemed to benefit a select few? Linda's face turned red. The community benefits. Really? I cut in. Because I can count on one hand the number of people who have actually set foot inside that clubhouse. Yet it's fully furnished, stocked with booze, and has a hot tub. Who exactly has access to all that? More murmurs. Someone shouted, "I've never been inside." Another person added, "Neither have I." Linda tried to regain control. These accusations are baseless. Greg stood up. No, they're not. We have receipts. And as a former board member, I can tell you this is not normal spending. The room erupted. People demanded answers. Linda stammered, trying to talk over the noise, but the damage was done. Then came the final nail in the coffin. Greg pulled out a document from the city's zoning office. Oh, and by the way, this clubhouse? It's actually illegal, built without proper permits, which means the city might be very interested in taking a closer look. Dead silence. Linda's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. And just like that, the empire she had built on fear and fake rules began to crumble. Epilogue. Over the next few weeks, things moved fast. The new HOA board, made up of actual reasonable people, dug into Linda's spending habits and found even more corruption. The city was contacted about the illegal clubhouse, and they were none too pleased. Fines were issued, and demolition was officially ordered. I made sure to be there the day the bulldozers arrived. Linda stood at the edge of the lot, watching as her beloved clubhouse was reduced to rubble. She didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me, but I knew she knew. Max sat beside me, tail wagging as he watched the destruction like it was the best show he'd ever seen. You did this, Linda muttered, finally breaking her silence. I glanced at her. No, Linda. You did this. You could have just left my dog alone. Her jaw tightened, but she had no response. As the walls came crashing down, I turned to Max. Well, buddy, I think we won. He let out a happy bark, and for the first time since moving into the neighborhood, I truly felt at home.